Since his debut in 2007, Ranbir Kapoor has been that rare Hindi film actor who has both defied and owned his blue-blooded Bollywood heritage. His most ambitious roles stem from an awareness of where he comes from. His most celebrated ones are rooted in a vision of how far he's willing to go. On the eve of Brahmastra, his 19th and biggest film in terms of scale and pop cultural stakes, Film Companion critic Rahul Desai ranks Ranbir Kapoor's top 10 roles in ascending order of quality. At number 10, Rajneeti. Prakash Jha's Rajneeti is perhaps the closest Ranbir Kapoor has come to Breaking Bad. As a cool to cold-blooded political scion who succumbs to his own genes, Ranbir delivers a deceptively sharp performance that defies the film's loud and uneven tone. He looks like a misfit in a dense narrative, which strangely informs our perceptions of his character's outsider status. In the process, Ranbir's Samar Pratap nearly compensates for Rajneeti's overplotted mythological and real-world tone. Even here, the turmoil stays internal. How could it not? At number 9, Ae Dil Hai Mushkil. Ayan from Karan Johar's simplified ode to Ek Tarfa Pyar is a greatest hits mixtape of all the roles that made Ranbir Kapoor. As a man who cannot accept romantic rejection by his best friend and subsequently a singer who turns heartbreak into art, Ranbir's performance is familiar without being inferior. The typecasting is apparent, yet somehow Ayan's entitled journey through the contours of toxic masculinity stays very watchable. Even when the storytelling descends into farce in the final act, and despite the urban fetishizations of Urdu, the compromised Hindu-Muslim slant and the casting controversy surrounding the film, it's the trademark heart-over-mind hold of Ranbir that prevents Ae Dil Hai Mushkil from losing the plot. Watching Ayan throw a lyrical tantrum in Channa Mereya alone becomes worth the price of a ticket. At number 8, Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. Kabir aka Bunny Thapar is the modern Indian millennial's wet dream. He has wanderlust with a capital W, the best father in the world, a sensitive stepmother, nostalgic friends, a story that has eyes only for him, a potential lover with a geek to glam arc, and the audacity to be a drifter and a settler at once. Ranbir floats between genres with effortless charm as Bunny, lending the character the sort of shapeless ambition that resonates with a culture that's outgrown morally certain heroes. Whether he's sitting quietly with a glass of Ruafza while reflecting on his identity as a son, or stealing a glance at a barely recognizable Naina in the opening seconds of Badtameez Dil, Ranbir roots the romantic idealism of the script in something far more concrete. There is no faking a coming-of-age graph, and Bunny's story unfurls as nearly the reverse of Ved's from Tamasha. His free-spirited persona slowly finds the fruits of conformism. The actor is so convincing as an unconvinced man that he almost pulls off that unlikely climax. Almost. At number 7, Wake Up Sid. Ayan Mukherjee's debut cleverly staged its protagonist, Sid, as a fictional version of Ranbir Kapoor himself. Just like the character breaks out of his privileged life to find his own path, one could sense the actor finding his own after a brace of glossy Bollywood launch vehicles. Both journeys collide to create a deceptively personal performance. Not for the first time, love compels a Ranbir Kapoor character to grow the heck up. But there's an awareness here that the woman he's paired with, played beautifully by Konkana Sen Sharma, is the star of her own Mumbai-centric film. Their chemistry comes from the need to understand one another, both as real and real characters. In no universe would Sid and Aisha end up together as companions. Ayan Mukherjee repeats this folly, where romantic incompatibility is framed as just another obstacle in love, in his next film. But Ranbir Kapoor comes of age on screen so breezily that not even the compulsions of commercial Hindi cinema could derail these stories. At number 6, Sanju. Rarely has there been such a glaring gap between a whole and the part driving it. I'm not a big believer in the great acting but mediocre movie line of criticism, but Sanju, Rajkumar Hirani's hagiographical blockbuster centered on controversial Bollywood star Sanjay Dutt, makes a solid case for it. It stretches the misunderstood celebrity trope to its limit, blaming the entire world for its famous protagonist's struggles. However, Ranbir Kapoor wheels past this narrative varnish and prosthetics to create a character that's composed as much from life as the movies. His focus stays on adapting and interpreting rather than mimicking. His Sanju almost compels us to read between the lines, evoking the sort of social subtext that the writing sorely missed. I exited the cinema hall so swayed by his turn that my knee-jerk reaction was to like the film for precisely 1 hour. At number 5, Rocket Singh Salesman of the Year. Shimit Amin and Jaideep Sahani's disarming workforce film will always be Ranbir Kapoor's Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na. There's a wisdom beyond his years in his turn as the humble Harpreet Singh Bedi, a white-collar fresher who defies the corporateness of striving by starting his own computer service company. Ranbir nails a rare character that finds creativity within the shackles of conformism, a person who many accuse Tamasha's Ved of generalizing in its own breaking free arc. The actor doesn't play Rocket Singh as a simpleton who fumbles his way to success. He resorts to empathy as an act of resistance. The movie is an unabashed ode to Indian traditionalism, but thanks to Kapoor's performance, it never feels like a bad thing. At number 4, Tamasha. Every time anyone writes or speaks about Tamasha, I can almost hear the collective eye rolling on social media platforms. It's been that sort of film. Divisive, shape-shifting, personal, provocative. And it's aged in all sorts of directions with time. I've rarely seen a new age Bollywood movie trigger so much scrutiny, reading, and fan theory. Much of this legacy is rooted in Ranbir Kapoor's many splendid performances as Ved, an escapist parading as a realist, a man of the movies parading as a man of the world. Say what you will about Ranbir's monopoly of the man-child template, nobody minds it better than him. His Ved cannot be reduced to one label, largely because of how the actor translates an identity crisis into somewhat of a cultural touchstone for Hindi storytelling. Tamasha also represented the most fertile phase of Kapoor's career, one that, while it lasted, turned the seesawing between the actor and star into its own art form. At number 3, Jaga Jasoos. Eventually, history might look back at Jaga Jasoos as more than a heartbreaking failure that set Ranbir Kapoor on a more orthodox acting path. Anurag Basu's gloriously eccentric musical has the heart of a silent film and the soul of a father-son chamber comedy. It's held together, or something like that, by Kapoor's unfiltered investment in the stuttering comic book hero who's almost bleeding into the real world. He makes the dissonant journey look poignant and rich at once, often cutting through Basu's madness to reveal the method at its core. More than anything, it's a joyous performance to watch, unadorned by starry crutches and fueled by a desire to reinvent the language of Hindi entertainment. In his finest roles, Ranbir thinks like a filmmaker, and his Jaga is right up there in terms of bringing dreams to life and life to dreams. At number 2, Barfi. The conflicted legacy of Anurag Basu's Barfi, being a homage or rip-off, being clumsy or genius, has not dimmed the light of its fabled performances. Ranbir Kapoor's enchanting turn as the deaf-mute protagonist who sees and hears the world as a whimsical fairy tale plays out like a giant feeling. He's all heart as Murphy, also known as Barfi Johnson, a human extension of Basu's optically elastic setting. Ranbir blends into the world and stands out at once, straddling the line between visual prop and social misfit. Emotions inform Barfi's slapstick harmony with the environment. Ranbir's Chaplin-esque ability to snatch joy from the jaws of sadness, and vice versa, come to the fore. Most of all, he lends credence to Barfi's oddball relationship with an autistic Jhilmil, which might have looked creepy in a lesser film, by legitimizing the differently abled view of care as platonic love. Barfi is the father and brother that she never had, and his desire to protect her is derived from a mutual mistrust of an ableist society that links companionship to romance, and life to the stories we consume. At number 1, Rockstar. The jury will forever be out on Rockstar, Imtiaz Ali's messy and mercurial ode to the romantic tussle between art and heartbreak. It can be argued that editor Aarti Bajaj, composer A.R. Rahman, and most of all, actor Ranbir Kapoor whipped the restless film into the shape of recklessness. Rockstar legitimized the birth of the Ranbir Kapoor era, one that was unofficially well underway After the coming-of-age drama, the goofball comedy, the office space underdog dramedy, and the political thriller, his feverish performance as Delhi-born musician Janardhan Jhakar, aka Jordan, has the eye of the cyclone vibe about it, particularly in terms of how it reveals the stillness of a rebellion torn between adolescence and adulthood, rapture and rage. It's like watching an artist get infected with love and inspired by it at once. He makes genius look incidental to a grief of living, a magic trick that, in the inimitable words of Luck by Chance's Romy Rowley, announced Ranbir Kapoor as a volcano of talent. You can read Rahul Desai's entire list on Film Companion's website. Did our ranking match yours? Tell us in the comments below.